Hello, everybody. Welcome to the last Childcare Chats of the National Childcare Owners Association for 2023. This has been an exciting year. A lot of information was shared, and we learned so much in this year how to deal with things, how to handle. And that's what brings up this December's Childcare Chat. We're talking about problem solving and problem solutions so that we can start the year 2024 off on a good start. All right, so improving your problem solving skills for this upcoming year of 2024. I am so happy to be here, and I'm also with my co host, Daphne Booker Harris, and we have Miss Melanie McGuire in the background, working all the details in the background. So we're so happy to be here, and we are going to have this packed childcare chat talking about problem solving and problem solutions. So thank you for being here, and we welcome y'all to enjoy this wonderful childcare chats. So let's get right into it. I'd like to welcome Daphne Booker Harris to the stage. How you doing today?
Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm super excited to be on the day after Christmas. There's no other time to get on and to make sure that we're moving forward to our 2024. And moving forward in our 2024, we have to make sure that we're dealing with our problems and being able to solve those problems effectively. And we know a lot of times those problems come about because we don't have the right policies and procedures in place. And if we do have the policies and procedures in place, we don't implement them properly or we don't enforce them. So we want to just hash that out today. We want to talk about some of those things because most of the time when we go into childcare centers and have conversations with owners and directors, most of the problems that occur is because they did not follow the process procedures that's in place. But for those of you who do not know, who try to say like, who is the National Childcare Owners Association? I want to let you guys know the National Childcare Owners Association is an association that has been started with childcare owners and childcare individuals, people that love the ECE community from all walks of life, from different parts of the world, who decided to come together to make a change and a difference in the childcare industry by tackling the issues and tackling the things that normally individuals don't like to talk about. The National Childcare Owners Association is on a mission to impact childcare owners one childcare center at a time by tackling policies, procedures, and things that come about in legislation. Because we try to figure out a lot of times why the rules are rules and why things are in place, but it all goes back to legislation, goes back to rules. And the National Childcare Owners Association, we're on the mission to make sure that we get those seats at the table so we can be their voice, so we can be the change that we want to see in the early childhood education, because we want them to know that everybody is not babysitters. There are childcare owners that's really on the move of impacting families and generations as they walk in their centers. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about our mission, what we're about, and just invite you guys to follow our Facebook page, our Instagram page. We come on, we have these conversations, but I want you to join our community and just have these different conversations. So today we're going to get right into the topic, which is problem solving and setting those skills, setting the right policies and procedures to help us propel forward for 2024. When we're talking about the mission of the NCOA, I said changing the landscape of childcare when it comes down to policies and procedures, because the changes occur when we all show up and let them know that we're here. So when we talk about changes that's happening, the first thing we think about is everybody right now is in an uproar about the stabilization, about the laws and the rules and regulations from Congress that the funds have ran out for stabilization. But we know as childcare owners, the laws, the legislators in the White House has the power to change that. They have the power to put more money back into early childhood education. And so we have to be that change. We have to be that voice to be able to do that. And so when we're thinking about the landscape of the policies and procedures that the government has put in place for early childhood education, what are some of the things, Ray, that you think about when you think about those policies that legislation has put in place?
All right. Well, what I think about some of the policies and procedures that they put in place, sometimes I don't think that they really sit down and talk to childcare owners before writing the laws, because some of the things that they put in place is a detriment to us instead of a benefit for us. That's why it's so important for us to have a seat at the table, so that when they're thinking about making these changes, when they're thinking about making new rules, they get the input from us, the childcare owners. So that way, everything can be conducted in a safe, clean environment, and everything will be done smoothly, so that it will benefit not only the childcare owners, not only the powers that be, but it benefits the children, because that's the ultimate goal, to put policies and procedures in place to benefit the children. And sometimes some of the policies they put in place is at a detriment. And that's why it's so important that we have a seat at the table.
Exactly. Because a lot of times as owners, we're not at the table. The individuals that's making the rules and the regulations, making those decisions, are not actually the ones who actually doing the work. So that's something that we're trying to change, to make sure that we get those different seats at the table. That we get the seat at the table. If you're on and you're watching this live, I want you to interact with us, right? I want you to put some comments in the chat about some things that you would like to see change in the childcare industry, so as a force that we can come together to help make that change. I'm looking in the chat and I see Tawana that agreed down to change is come down to the rules and regulations when it come down to the government. But when you think about the highlights, we want to highlight some of the recent things that has happened in the childcare industry when it come down to regulations that may impact childcare owners. One of those biggest things when it come down to that change is, I know here in the state of Tennessee, they're changing the language, right? Whereas national accreditation was not something that was enforced at first. That was something that was that you had a choice to do. It wasn't mandatory, but it's still not mandatory, but it's never been written inside the licensing rules standards for national childcare accreditation for state. So in Tennessee, they added that language inside of the licensing rules. So that let us know that eventually down the pipeline is going to be some type of requirement for national accreditation. So instead of us trying to figure out how we're going to get nationally accredited, or how we're going to stay relevant to the new trends of what's going on, why not be proactive? If you see that there's language that's inside the licensing rule that's never been there before, why not start trying to put policies and procedures in place to make sure that you have those things already, instead of waiting till they make it a requirement in order for you to do it? Because yesterday's price is not today's price. So what you pay for something when it's not a requirement is different from what you're going to pay for when they make it a requirement. So if you're reading your licensing rules and you see that the language is changing, there's things that's been added and the rule book that's never been there before. Those are things you should highlight. Those are things that you should research to make sure that your program is in line with that language. Your program is in line with the things that are coming about. Joy, welcome Joy Maxwell to the stage. I'm super excited about you being on. Right now, we're talking about policies and procedures when it comes down to legislation. And so we're talking about some of the trends that you're seeing that legislation is putting in place. So what are some of the things, Joy, that you seeing coming down the pipeline that's never been seen before?
Hey guys, hey, happy holidays to everyone, first and foremost. I think this is an awesome topic, especially for what's currently going on in our industry. I know for me, and some of our other childcare experts have brought this up in the last couple of weeks, but I don't know what's going on in this insurance world. And although it's just, we're starting to really hear about it in the last couple of weeks. I think we noticed back in the summertime that we were renewing our policy, and this one was for our Philadelphia location, and the the insurance agent said that they were going to pull our what's those things called, our inspection report. No problem, pulled the inspection report. And then he said he also needed to pull the report of the violence and crimes in the area over the last couple of months. And I'm like, that's interesting. Like, we started in Philadelphia. This is where our location started at. So this is 4 locations in Philadelphia that we've opened. And for this man to say that the crime rate had increased so much in our area that they wanted like a higher fence. They wanted a fence that was more sturdy. They said they looked on Google Maps. They looked at our fence. They didn't think it was situated right or to the best of their ability. So there was a lot of things that we went back and forth with them. Now, mind you, we've already had some improvements done to our gates in the past anyway because of our quality rating program. And so to see that this man, like usually they say, your license book is the bare minimum, right? Your quality rating is best practices. So anytime the insurance company is now going above quality rating, it's like, oh, wow. They're not playing. They're not playing with childcare. They're saying that it's childcare industries out of all the industries that have the highest amount of insurance claims in small businesses. I thought that was really interesting because I find that a lot of things that we run into that winds up being an issue when it comes to insurance sometimes is because of people not following proper policies, practices, and procedures. It's very, very seldom that you see owners on the news when it comes to somebody being left on a bus, hurt, this was done, a teacher did this, a teacher did that. It's very, very seldom that you in those reports see a owner left a kid at the playground. A owner did this to a kid. It's usually always somebody who's supposed to be following, practicing different rules and policies. So I thought that was interesting. And I know that is a current trend in the childcare industry.
So let me pose a question, because this goes right into problem solving, so that we can start this next year off right. What is some suggestions that you can better prepare your staff so that everything is in place, so that the childcare is not affected, like the owner is not affected by any mistakes from the staff? What is some problem solving solutions? Like, is it better training? Like what's some of the things you think should be put in place? And that's an open-ended question for the panel.
Yeah. I think for me, continued training, hands-on training, different types of training. When I first got into childcare when I was 14 years old, they set me in front of a manual. I had to read the manual and talk to the director. By the time I opened my own childcare center, we then had a virtual training. I had to do a virtual training and then a virtual test that went with the test. So that, you know what I mean? From the time that I worked in childcare at 14 to the time that I opened my own childcare center, that was almost 20 something years. So in 20 something years, it's definitely changed how trainings are being done implemented, presented, all of that. Now you could go into a classroom, you could go to an off-site location, you could go to an on-site location, you could do virtual. I saw someone do a virtual reality training, literally with the goggle thingies. So times have changed. The way we train has changed. I think we could be more creative. I think we can continue hands-on cycles. I think we can continue learning. I think that there are things we can do and add scenarios. I think the other thing is going back to some of those old reports of what went wrong, what licensing deemed you on before, going back to some of those old reports, pulling that up and using those as your training points over the next couple of, months, so that you're not repeating some of the same mistakes. That's just my opinion.
Okay, and I also believe like I hate to bring up Chick-fil-A, but like whenever you bring in new staff, I think you need to introduce everyone to the culture of your child care center because you have to buy people into the culture, and that's part of the policies and procedures. That's part of the training because once you bring them in, like you don't just bring them in and throw them right to the floor, throw them right to the wolves. I think you should bring them in, have them trained for like a few days or a week, let them know the culture, and then let them, for lack of a better word, let them mesh into the culture of your child care center.
Yes, that's a great observation, Ray. Dr. Asia Rivers, welcome to the stage. Welcome to this month Childcare Chat. And I want to just ask you, what are some suggestions that you have when it comes down to problem solving that childcare owners can make sure that they have in place for their staff moving forward for 2024 when it comes down to policies and procedures?
Hello, everyone. So definitely I agree with everyone's suggestions on the panel, that it needs to be a mix of training. We need to make sure that we're onboarding staff correctly, and that we also are bringing in policymakers. The biggest trend that I see, and I'm just going to say a trend regarding the biggest mistake when it comes to childcare providers is that we're not openly inviting individuals that do have the decision making power, and giving them an honest feedback. It's often a conflict. Some people feel attacked. Some people feel like, okay, well, they're not listening. And that's not really the case. For the last 6 or 7 months, I have been all ears because my position changed in my own business. And so getting in the rooms with some of the policymakers, getting in the rooms with surveyors, getting in the rooms with directors that are over different states, they actually want to help. They're listening. They actually want to help providers because, believe it or not, programs are closing at an alarming rate. Um, I can only specifically speak for Kentucky. Um, there was a news blast that just went out this last week, and we had 8 different programs closed. That was in one week. There are 10 more slated to close next week. And so when with the discussions come up about childcare deserts or universal pre-K, these are all things, yes, that need to be talked about. But let's go back to the drawing board. How many times are we going to sit by and allow people to come in, yes, survey our facilities, but we're not giving critical feedback at all. We're not giving feedback that actually matters. We're getting upset over, yes, they dinged me over, these deficiencies, but what am I not doing in my current business that's allowing for these deficiencies to keep constantly being repeated? It's a mix. I mean, even the staffing, the quality of staff has changed. And so when it comes to onboarding policies and procedures, yes, we do have to bring them on and, onboard them and give them a full display of what it is to be a day in the life of a staff person at this facility. But we also have to revisit our own policies and procedures because, as we know, old antiquated ways that are tradition tradition doesn't always work. Tradition changes. We have diversity, equity, inclusion practices that are being excluded. I can go on and on about different things of how policies and procedures play a major role um, in a collapse of an entire industry. But we really have to get back to the basics, and making sure that we're pulling it all together, and we're revisiting and making sure that policymakers are openly invited into it. Even if it's something that we don't agree with, we need to make sure that our voice is heard from all angles.
So, Dr. Avis, I love the point that you said, allowing those decision makers to come in your program, because it leads us right into the next thing that I was going to ask, because that's one of the problems that I see. And what are some of the common problems that chapter centers encounter? And I was going to say a lot of the common problems that chapter owners have is they don't voice their opinion, they don't use their voice to get decisions made. Because in our state, they will call a state meeting, and you have thousands of childcare owners here, but you go to the meeting, it's only 75 childcare owners in that room. And you're saying, where are the childcare owners? I know that there's more childcare owners, but it's only 75 in the room. And you got the same 5 individuals that's reading the policy, standing up, saying, this does not go with everyday practices. You got the same people, but you got thousands of childcare centers that have licensing, but they're not even showing up to even allowing their voice to be heard, because they feel like if I speak up, then they're going to target me. If I say something, then they're going to start looking into my program, because they haven't dotted all their I's and they haven't crossed all their T's. So a lot of the problems is chakra owners don't force their opinion, simply because they afraid of the backlash. They afraid of somebody coming back retaliating because they did say something. But we as a chakra industry have to change that. Have to make sure I'm a chapter on, I'm for the ECE. I'm not saying that you're going to be perfect, but what I am going to say is you have to use your voice to make a change, and don't be afraid, because you're afraid of the backlash. It doesn't. It's alarming for only 75 chapter owners to show up in thousands in a city to make a decision that's going to change the industry forever. I think that is insane. So that's one of the biggest common mistakes that I see in with childcare owners when it comes down to policies and procedures and lawmaking.
I agree, Dr. Daphne. Um, Everybody that is joining us today, I just want to say this to you all. I was that childcare owner. I didn't have any experience in the field. Became an owner and director, and everything that I know now, I had to learn. It wasn't something that was readily available, but I often spoke my voice. Might not have spoke the right thing. However, I still spoke up when I felt like there was an injustice, or if I felt like there was something that was wrong. And oftentimes I would feel embarrassed. I'm telling you guys right now, do not feel embarrassed, because I didn't even know how, when I went to the state capitol to speak a few times, I did not know what the inner workings were. I did not know that I could just go right up to the podium and speak whenever the topic came up. It took a fellow child care, I'm gonna say a child care advocate, to explain to me the laws and governance and the way that things work, and how to get my voice heard, and heard in such a way where it made an impact. So if you don't know, then let's begin to pull resources so that way we can communicate with each other, so that way your voice can be heard in an effective manner. Because I was all for one to say, you know what, when I get up to this podium, because I don't speak well, I do feel embarrassed. I do feel ashamed. I feel like no one's gonna take me seriously. And it shouldn't be that. We are our own worst enemy. And we are our own worst enemy. And so, again, don't shut yourself down, and don't undervalue what you have to put out there, because we're the ones that's working in the trenches every day with families and children, and then those that are also in other industries that are touching this field. So don't feel embarrassed, don't feel ashamed. We there's a way to pull us together to be able to make a profound impact. We just have to figure out what way works best. So don't feel embarrassed, don't feel ashamed, make your voice heard, guys.
Yes.
Excellent points. Excellent points.
On top latch on, do you have any comments on this topic?
Yeah, excellent observations, people, family, Dr. Rivers, Dr. Booker, Booker Harris. I mean, those are excellent observations, as well as President Maxwell. I want you all to realize and to understand that what Dr. Rivers and Dr. Booker Harris just spoke on about advocating on a on state level.
Hear you.
I want you all to know that the importance of. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah. All right. The importance of advocating on a state level. A lot of people don't realize that funding for child care comes from the Child Care Block Grant. That is a federal grant, and it's ciphered down to the state level, and then of course on down to the local level. So if you're not involved, if your voice is not being heard on the local level and it's not being heard on a state level, then it's never going to make it to the federal level. We spoke earlier about insurance. A lot of us don't realize that insurance is governed by the state. The state in which you operate controls the rates of insurance in that particular state. So if you're not, by the fact that you're not present on matters dealing directly with your business from an advocacy perspective, and then you're not present in an area that affects all business, it's definitely going to have a financial implication on you. So when I worked on the state level for some time, and I learned some things while I was there. And the thing that I learned the most is what Asia spoke on, is that people, they have something they want to say, they just don't know how to say it and when it's proper to say it. I can say that when you receive a notice from the state to participate in some type of licensing rules change, etc., you need to make sure that you're fully aware of the rule that you have some objections to, or some rules that you want clarification of. And then when you go in and speak, you when you rise to the podium, you state the rule, section, subsection, and paragraph. And when you state the rule, section, subsection, and paragraph, you give your opinion, which is called a rationale. You give your rationale for what you are objecting to and why you're objecting to it. After you give that rationale, then you say what you would like to see occur. After you deliver the rationale, you say what you would like to see occur. Then after that, you state if it's a financial impact on the legislation, because you first must identify what area you want to be articulated, or what area you want to be reviewed, why you want to review it, how you would like to see it adjusted, and then whether or not what your adjustment is, if it's going to have a financial impact on that piece of legislation. And if it does have a financial impact, what usually happens is that particular law, that particular rule is kicked back down to a subcommittee to evaluate the validity of the financial impact that you say that is going to occur with the particular piece of legislation. So if you could show that what you're asking for can be legitimated and doesn't either A, cost a lot of money, or B, it's going to be beneficial from a cost benefit analysis, then you generally can get your voice heard by a legislator who will have their office secretary or someone contact you, because when you rise to speak, you have to give that information. That's the point of giving that information. You give your name, your business, your contact information, and that's the reason why they take that information, because if you bring up something that is found to be valid, something that they have not really looked into in their feasibility studies, they'll reach out to you and give you an opportunity to be on a search committee to be able to either A, see that legislation move forward, or B, it basically cause it to be killed, and it basically dies in committee. But again, the only reason I know this and can see and tell you this is because I spent some time in our state capitol working in this environment, and that was one of the most valuable experiences I've ever had in my life. Because again, when we have situations that happen in our state and no one in our area is speaking on it, generally, if I have the legislation, if I know what the issues are, I generally can make the presentation and we can get what we're trying to get accomplished. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your point of view. There was some great information you just shared. And continue to just bless us with more of that information. I believe that Asia Rivers and Daphne and Joy, y'all spoke about the insurance, the importance of insurance, and everything that's happening with insurance. Hopefully, with us talking more, with us collaborating more, we can talk to the state and hopefully make changes as far as how they go about the insurance rates. But I want to get back to the subject of problem solving and problem solutions. Now, I believe that we need to better train our supporting staff for problem solving solutions. We need to create different strategies and collaborate with our staff on creating a problem solving culture among our staff. So let me ask you, what's some of the problem solving activities we do with our staff? Do we practice conflict resolution with our staff? Because a healthy environment is good for the whole center, because a healthy environment is great for the kids, it's great for the parents, it's great for everyone in the whole. So what's some of the problem solving solutions that we create a good culture for our staff?
So a lot of times when it comes down to problem solving, it all boils down to the culture and the energy that you create in your chakra center, right? So if you create a culture of every time something happens, you're going to harbor on the problem, then when things arrive, they're going to react and treat it as if it is a problem. But if you create an environment where it's a problem, but I'm not going to harbor on the problem, we're going to always come up with a solution, whether you have one or not. So, and our program is when a problem arrives, we train our staff, our administrative staff to let's not harbor on the problem, because that's not getting us anywhere. That's not getting us results. When you come to me, my first question to my staff is always, so how would you handle that? What are some things that we can do to improve to make sure that does not happen anymore? Because obviously, if there's a problem, there's a flaw in my policy and my procedure. So I want to make sure that I'm not just the only one trying to solve this. I want you to have thoroughly thought out how you would fix it, because I don't want my staff to be depending on me to always be there to solve the problems. So how you train your staff to be able to solve problems is you ask them, if this was you, how would you handle this situation? What are some of the things that you have done or you want to put in place to ensure that this doesn't happen again? And one thing that does, that open the lines of communication. Whereas if they feel like that their voice wasn't heard, they're going to be heard for one. And two, that also gives you a different look at some things. Because as owners, sometimes we may have antiquated ways on how we want to solve those solutions, but we're living in different times. Sometimes we have to change policies. As Dr. Aja said earlier, you have to go back to your policies and refresh them. And your staff may bring that to your attention. Like, you created that policy 10 years ago. In this time, that does not work. If I had to do it, I would do it this way. And as an owner, you have to be open to those suggestions. You have to be open for those solutions. So when we're talking about problems and being a problem solution, you have to always harbor on the solution instead of the problem, because if you create an environment of panic and chaos, that's how your organization is going to run. And you don't ever want to run a child care center based off of panic, off of chaos. You want everybody to always be calm and have some type of action plan on how they're going to fix whatever that happened in that classroom. So become, I tell my staff, what's the solution? Let's don't harbor on the problem. What is your solution? So that's how we handle situations that arrive in our programs.
Right, and that's a great point. Have some type of HR in place. If they HR is the director, but have some type of HR in place, so if a problem happens, they know exactly who to go to try to solve the problem before it's escalated up the ladder up to the owner. Hopefully, you can resolve issues before it reaches the owner position. And slide off to the next point. So you work on ways to support your staff. Now let's talk about building the relationship with the parents. Because that's very important, because sometimes something real small that could be handled real good with a parent, sometimes it gets out of hand. And you know how quick some of these parents are with social media. They're quick to say something bad, but slow to talk about stuff good. So let's talk about building a good relationship with the parents, because that's very good when it comes to problem solving. Because if you could build that good relationship with the parents, then that's half the battle right there. So with the panel, can you explain some of the policies and procedures that you have to help establish trust and transparency with the parents?
Well,
Don't all speak at once.
I'll take a. Well, I'll give you guys for my feedback. This was one of our biggest areas in our organization that we had to work on for 2023. Many of you guys may or may not know, but we had a huge issue that led to our facility trending on social media, and it was bad. And when I say it was bad, to the point where I had parents come to the facilities pulling their enrollments for their children. I had people calling in the facilities, threatening the staff. It was really bad, you all, and I can speak for an hour about this specific situation. So we have been on a quest to reconnect with families. Some for some huge issues. I mean, some huge reason there was issue just back, like everybody during this time period. It was, oh, I'm gonna go put a Google review. So you guys know the whole Google review process. Any and everybody can go and put in a 1-star review, whatever. So what we tried to do was have family connection meetings with our community. It wasn't just for the staff in the families in our center, but also for the community to give feedback, to really reacquaint who we were as a company, but also the staff and who they were and what they sacrificed, but then also the other families that were in there. Whenever we did family engagement events for the centers, it wasn't just open for the center, it was open to the entire community, which was quite a large change for our organization. When you're talking about some of these policies and procedures, yes, I can put a million and one things on a piece of paper for regarding policies of uh, confidentiality, privacy, not bringing your cell phone out, slander. I can write a million one of those policies. However, if no one is there to enforce those policies on a consistent basis, but also inform staff of why these things are there. It's not only just, to protect the business, but it's there to protect them as well. The last thing I want anyone to ever experience is for someone to be in a hostile situation because someone put something out there that was untrue or was gossiping or carrying on something that just really didn't need to be said. And so, we live in a crazy world. We've seen a lot of stuff happen with businesses and people walking in workplaces and doing things that caused harm not only to employees but to the customers, which would in this case would be the children as well. So again, we have to make sure we're covered. And again, a policy just isn't going to do it. So just reaffirming and going over things with staff. And I do this training called "What Would You Do?" As an introductory training for all of my staff to put them in the situation of just letting them know, okay, look, a facility has already experienced this. What would you do in this situation? How could this been prevented? How could this been prevented at the administration level, but also at the staff level? At as a family member, if we always say if you see something, say something. Like that's the mentality that we need to have when it comes to families, because again, a family member might have saw something that could have a situation that could have been prevented a long time ago. So again, just making sure that we maintain connected to our families, having those family connection meetings, making sure that it's open-ended open two-way conversation with our families so they can give us feedback. And sometimes it may be a situation where we're pulling them into the office to say, hey, Miss Jones, or hey, Mr. So-and-so, can you give me a little feedback about the program? How do you feel protected when you come inside these doors? How do you think that we could better protect your child while we're here? Is there something that we could do better? So again, just making sure that we have that openness all the way around.
Yes, I agree with everything that you said, Dr. Asia. There's a couple of things that we put in place for to make sure that we stay connected with our families, because I do know it only take one complaint, it only take one parent, and a situation that's so minute could be blown out of proportion because of what someone is saying, and we never want to be perceived as something that we're not. So one of the biggest things that I teach my administrative team, my executive team all the time, and my staff is communication. Everything boils down to effective communication. If you communicate with the parents in a timely and an effective manner, it will cut down on the miscommunication, right? So if we are always the first line of defense when it comes down to parents, you are the first person to talk to the parent about the problem. Because what I do want us to understand, problems are going to happen. They're going to happen. It's how you respond to the problem that matters. If you respond to the problem and you are the first person to let the parent know about the problem, and you talk about the policies and the procedures and how you handle it, a parent reaction is totally different from a child saying, my teacher hit me. If you allow the student to tell the parent, the reaction is totally different from administrative communicating to the parent first. We have an incident where, we're dealing with after COVID, right? After COVID, man, a lot of these kids coming in with behavior problems, they're falling out, they have a temper tantrum, they're doing all of those things. We know that. So we went on this whole crusade for months of making sure that our administrative team is the one communicating to the parents about the behaviors. They're communicating what's going on with the child, because I never want the children to leave there and say, well, Miss So-and-so did this to me. She told me that I couldn't eat, or she told me that I couldn't play with my friends, or she did this. And the parents are going to first thing, you're discriminating against my child, or you're doing this to my child. They're doing that to my child. But if as an administrator, if you have the right policies in place, where you have the systems where you communicate with the parents when things are happening, A parent should not pick up the phone and have to call your center back and say, what happened to little Johnny left arm? Little Johnny said that he was put in think tank. What happened? These are things that you as a owner should have in place to be your first line of defense. It's not always about she knows that her child do this. If parents it doesn't matter what their child do. They want to hear from you. And if we communicate with the parents effectively, a lot of time the reaction is totally different. But if you allow the child to tell the parent the teacher did something first, or another child did something first, or a parent did something to the child, they're going to react belligerently. They're going to go on social media. They're going to call the police. They're going to call the state. They're going to do all of these things because you did not communicate effectively. Now, will you communicate sometimes and some things still blow out of hand? Absolutely. But when we're talking about common problems, most common problems come about because there is a lack of a communication with parents. The process is not being followed. You did not send the parents a text. You did not pick up the phone and call the parent. If you do not get the parent, send them an email. You have to have policies in place to document it. Every time you reached out to that parent and you did not get an opportunity to talk to that parent, you should always have policies in place to say that, because you can't protect yourself if you don't have paperwork saying that I called her at 12:05 and she didn't answer the phone. I left her a message, I sent her email, and I sent her text messages, and I gave her written documentation. We have to make sure that we have solutions to the problem to keep the problem from being bigger than what it needs to be by effectively communicating with our parents through picking up the phone, by having a conversation, talking to them when they come in, sending them emails, sending them texts. So if you do not have the right tools in place to be able to effectively communicate with your parent, I'm going to encourage you to invest in that, because that cut down on a lot of problems. If we have those things in place, then they say, oh, you know what? I did get an email. I just didn't read it. Oh, I did get a text message from you. Because the first thing I say is at 12:15, we sent you an email and it stated XYZ. And they say, oh, I did. I apologize for that. Then now it's on them. It's not on you because they didn't read it. So we have to learn how to have the right processes in place to cut down on the problem so they won't escalate, because they're going to happen. It's how we respond to the problem that matters.
Some excellent points right there. And and I say all the time, you don't have to be the parent's best friend. Just be the best advocate. Just be the best client of that parent. And what you're saying, it rolls right to the next point. How can we use technology to help with problem solving? So what's some ways you use technology to help problem solving? You said use an email, because I know it's certain apps where you could track the kids' process throughout the course of the day. So what's some of the ways we mesh technology with problem solving?
Well, when you talk about technology is totally different from what it was when I first started. When I first started in the industry over 15 years ago, we were signing kids in on paper. So if you on this live and y'all still using paper, signing, I'm just saying, technology has changed. You should have some type of electronic system where you're tracking your students' attendance. You should have some type of electronic system where you're tracking your communication with your parents. Because if the state come in and say, well, I want to see where you call the mama at 12:15, how are you going to be able to document it? You're going to pull out a sheet of paper to show where you wrote it down? Technology will solve a whole lot of problems by having the right processes in place. And it go back to investing in the business that pays you. Investing in the business that pays us. We want a lot of times get paid and put the money in our pocket and buy Rolls Royce and these big houses and buy another child care center when we don't even have the right processes in place for the first one. Instead of buying a simple software system that you can communicate with your parent. All software systems, I don't advocate for none of them, right? But it's so many of them out there that we can communicate with our parents through text messages, through different apps, through a lot of things. You can communicate with your parents through to text them, send them emails. Emails are free. You don't have to. You can get you an email. If you don't have a professional email, use Gmail. You should have something where you're communicating with your parents. It's no way that we should not be able to send out a mass email or mass text message to your parents if something happened. If something devastating, if the utilities go out and a storm happens, a tornado happens, and parents are in a position where they can't, they don't know that it's happening. How will you notify the parents? Will you send them an email? Will you send them a text? Will you send them some type of alarm? How would you do that? You have to be able to do that in today's society. Are you still picking up the phone, calling 100 and some parents, telling them, "Oh, I need you to pick your child up because there is an emergency"? You know how much time that is? Well, you can solve the problem by just hitting one click of a button to get those things resolved versus you picking up the phone, calling everybody. And I'm not saying take away the personal touch, because personal touch does matter, right? But we have to make sure as owners that we're putting the right policies and procedures in place. Don't just put the software in place and say, "Well, I bought Kangaroo or Will. They know how to work it." It's a policy and procedure for that as well. Everything that you have should have a process. Everything that you have should have a process. Dr. Asia, what's your comments on that?
I wholeheartedly agree. There's so many childcare management systems in the workplace that we could utilize. There's one for every budget. Trust and believe. You can find one that will be able to give you the same capabilities. Emails, text message, sometimes the accessibility of having photos and videos incorporated into that. Choose one. It's so important when a state passes an entire bill that is specifically targeted towards technology in childcare, and the system is free. So again, if the state is backing an entire childcare system to incorporate for all childcare centers, then yes, it is very important that they have the data, 2, the logistical piece, but then 3, also the documentation piece that is being crucially overlooked. And it's not even just for the fact of the matter being is, to communicate in emergency situations, but also documentation to cover your employees in the event that something happens. We've had it happen, several things happen several times. There are issues, related to assessment and early intervention with children. Where is all of that documentation stored at? It needs to be stored so that you'll be able to use it when necessary, but also if the proper authorities are inquiring, no matter who it is, that you have that documentation to back up whatever scenario or story that there is there, in order to just tell them what went on. So again, a measure of protection. We're talking about insurance. It saved me. So again, documentation in one centralized location, in one system, it will save you tons of money. It will save you when it comes to lawsuit. It will save you when it comes to deficiency. It will save you and protect you. So again, just make sure that you're revisiting those policies and procedures, using the technology that's available, and using it on a consistent basis. If you're consistently inconsistent, I'm gonna just say this: if you're consistently inconsistent in documentation, it's not going to do what it's supposed to do. So again, use technology. It's gonna be crucial to your business, and especially with all of the new stuff that rolls out, just make sure that you're using it on a regular basis. Don't put it to the side like I go and see in many other centers. You purchase it and then you don't use it. That is just a waste of money. So again, make good use of the money that you invested into your business.
All right, all right. Thank you for your point of view. Very, very good information. Um, wow, we had so much stuff that time go by so fast. Do you think we have time for just one question from the audience? If we have any questions from the audience, can you post it up so that we can see it? Let's see. Is there anything posted? Let me see. All right. Well, I don't see nothing posted right now. Once again, wow,
If
time
you're
go by fast.
audited, by, if you're audited, you have to have the right tools in place, and technology
Oh,
help eliminates error with that.
okay. A question came up. Who would like to answer this one? How do I get to the state meetings? So, so let me ask that question. It depends on what state you're in, and then depending on what state you're in, you could talk to your local state representative's office, um, and then they'll let you know the scheduled dates for certain meetings. I definitely suggest that you build a relationship with your state representative office, because that would be one of the first steps, because they have an office in every ward, in every district. So that would be
Ray,
one of the first steps.
I want to recommend, so one is in the state of Tennessee. State of Tennessee do a lot of their updates on Tennessee.gov, where they have all of these undocumented meetings, where they have to have the meetings, but they don't officially announce all of the meetings to the public. Whereas you can show up for those meetings on Tennessee.gov, but some of those meetings they do send us in emails. They send us those emails, but you can also visit Tennessee.gov to Department of Human Services, and it gives you the dates, the time, and the location of those meetings. Sometimes they're in Shelby County, but a lot of times those meetings are held in Nashville if you're in the state of Tennessee.
Excellent, excellent. I hope that answers your question, or you could reach out to one of us and we could give you more details. Because it looked like we're almost out of time here. Is there any last comments or words from you, Todd, or you, Daphne Bookhouse? Anything else you want to add to this discussion before we close out? All right. All right. Well, with that being said, thank you guys for joining us for the last Childcare Chats of 2023 and 2024. We have a lot of great stuff in store, a lot of great problem-solving events, a lot of great activities that's going to happen. It is going to blow your socks off. The stuff that we have planned in the future. I want to thank the panelists for coming on. Thank Asia Rivers, Joy Maxwell, Todd Harris, Dr. Daphne Booker Harris for coming on and sharing the wealth of knowledge you have. You're a blessing to the community at large. I would like to encourage everyone to go to the NCOA website and to reach out so to get more information about the NCOA. Hold up, it was one more. All right, great. It was a
Happy
comment
holidays, everybody. Happy holidays.
Great. It was a comment from James that came in saying we answered this question, so that was good. That's good. Oh yeah, like Daphne said, happy holidays, everyone. Anyone else got anything else to say before we close out?
I just want to thank everybody for coming on these next few days. I know a lot of you guys are at home resting. If you're not, you're still working in chakra centers. I want you to just take a few hours to review your policies and procedures, to make sure that you take the time to go over your own policies and procedures so you can make sure that you're going into 2024 headed in the right direction and that your policies and procedures have been tightened up and they're moving forward with the rules and the regulations that the government has put in place, and it's moving with the pace of your child care center, because a lot of times child care owners don't update their policies. So I want you to take these few days to update your policies and set a plan to go over those policies with your staff at the beginning of 2024, so you can start the year off fresh with a clear understanding and a direction of where you want to go. Because I want you to always remember, you can have a vision, but without a plan of action in place is nothing without a plan of action. So I want you to create a plan of action to be able to articulate your policy and procedures to your staff in 2024. Y'all, that's our time. It's been real. Happy holidays, and I'll see you guys later.